Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Ryan again. I'm here to talk to you today about the next few sections in the song. I kind of think of these next two bits in the song as like verse A and B, but this is where one of those parameters I was talking about in part one of this, I guess, series about this track is the whole idea of having this reoccurring melodic line or motif. It has to do with like the scale degrees sharp 4, 5, and flat 6 of the Hungarian minor scale. So basically just kind of this idea, that kind of thing. But you'll see that this line starts to appear in other keys, harmonized in certain ways. That basically is one of the things I want to highlight in this video. So one other thing I want to mention that's kind of happening with these two sections here is that it's never quite harmonized all the way through in just minor thirds or just octaves, right? We're kind of like moving in and out of these ideas, but presenting it with a harmonized line that's changing up top, I guess. So that's something to think about. Maybe the guitars are playing the same rhythm. Maybe in the midst of the line, switch to one guitar playing chords and the others playing a more single note thing. These are not new ideas, obviously, right? Throughout the history of this style of music, you see that everywhere. But sometimes it's good to consider these ideas when you're maybe stuck on something or not sure where to take an idea. These ideas like of how to harmonize things or how to write like a counter line, sometimes it's best to just throw everything at one idea and see what sticks, you know? So that would be one thing I would mention. Okay, guys, so let's get into the verses here. Verse A, we have just D minor in measure 21. You'll start to see even in the higher guitar here, we're already seeing another appearance of that chromatic line from the Hungarian minor scale, which is just basically kind of jumping in and out of basically every riff you're about to see here. Measure 21 is just G minor. And then in measure 22, we're getting into an A minor chord here and A7 here. The triads here in measure 22, but again, with this rhythmic idea, it's eighth note triplets against regular eighth notes. So not so much risk taking on the melodic side because, like I said, it's just triads, but one part of it could be higher in interest level. So just the rhythm is taking the difference there, right? Measure 23, we're starting to get into D minor now. We have this little doubling in octaves, but it's not the chromatic line just yet. More so taking away from one of those ideas that we saw from in the intro riff. It kind of follows taking a little bit of that hammer-on and pull-off thing we saw in that section. Now here, we start to see that chromatic line again, right? It's in a different key than before, but it's still, rhythmically different. But it's making it up an appearance again, right? So like I said before, it's not so much it has to be exactly the same when this little motif appears. It's always a little different, but it can make the song have a little bit more depth beneath the surface, In measure 27, we have D minor major 7. Right? And the higher guitar is just playing another inversion of this chord. That just kind of sounded cool, stacking on top of the two guitars. There wasn't really a huge idea there. But then at the measure 28 here, we get to the B flat minor chord. And then we get a melodic motif there, right, from the Hungarian minor scale that as tremolo picking. So it's kind of injected into this verse A a bunch of times, right? And now we'll start to see verse B. We start to see it again. So in measure 29, we have A minor here, and then we get it here. Kind of cool with this idea because it really, once I had just those parameters for this song, it kind of, just came out this way. Obviously kind of some work sometimes to make the two guitar parts work together, expanding on what can be a small idea at first, but if you throw enough experiments with the same idea, you can get some interesting results. Here we have, in measure 30, we have E major, so just the triad, and then to F major, and then to D minor in measure 32. And then we basically repeat those three measures, so A minor, E major, F major, and now we get this kind of hook in the song, which I again use this little measure here to transition into a lot of different sections within the song. So we get this, it's pretty blatant, this use of the motif here, but it did help with kind of linking different parts of the song together. So it's just simply this idea of, and then doubling it with the octave above here. So this worked really well for this section, I think, just in terms of like really sending home this idea of the melodic line that became like the focus with this whole track, and especially in the verse sections, and we'll start to see it more in the other few sections in the song. Okay, guys, so that's it for those two sections. I'll be posting more videos, like I said, in the next coming weeks. But If you have any questions, definitely shoot me a message in the comment section. If you are interested in taking any sort of guitar lessons with me, I'm offering guitar lessons online. If you'd like to work on music theory or technique or songwriting ideas or anything like that, feel free to send me an email. I'll leave my email in the description of this video, okay? And until next time, thank you.